your assumption. Your identity is what actually determines your timeline. Hey you guys, welcome to my channel. If you are new, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, whichever side of the screen that I have it on, as well as the bell. So anytime any new content is uploaded, you're going to be the first to know about it, you guys. In manifestation, I think one of the biggest mistakes is how we, and it's very human, it's very normal, but we get caught up on our want, our desire, opposed to who are we being right now in our present state. Are we being the version of ourselves that has that dream fulfilled? We tend to focus more so on the wanting of that manifestation, right? The wanting of that fulfillment, opposed to our present alignment. How aligned are we with that fulfillment of that manifestation? Your identity is really what anchors your timeline. So for example, if someone is always identifying with being unlucky, broke, or unhappy, rejected, that is what they're going to continue to bring more situations, more circumstances into their reality that is actually going to reinforce that belief, right? So if they identify with being someone who, lucks out, rejected, broke, whatever negative type of identity that person, associates themselves with, they're going to continue to experience more of that because that is the alignment, right? That is what they're currently identifying with. And it's not because the universe hates them. It's not because God hates them or punishing them. It's because it's reacting to their current alignment, their current frequency. So really, if you want to, you could think of the world as being one big old algorithm, right? And that's just like any social media platform. I don't care if it's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. If you've ever noticed where you click on a video, a movie, or a song, or you watch a certain content, and then all of a sudden you're getting more types of that content into your news feed, right? It could be that you watch a movie, that genre of movies that you were watching, whether it was action, comedy, romance, whatever, you're getting more of that into your algorithm. And it's the same way, right? Because you focused on that, because you gave that your attention when you could have kept scrolling, but because you stopped and you clicked and you gave whatever it was your attention, all of a sudden now you're getting more of that into your newsfeed, more of that into your algorithm. And you really can think of, the universe as being one giant, super intelligent, living, breathing algorithm, right? And you could really think of your life as being that newsfeed. As they always say, if I can get this right, energy goes where attention flows, or attention flows where energy goes. You guys know what I'm talking about. But it's the same way. So you really want to make sure that you are filtering out, right? And when we say filtering out, that's what what it is that you're consuming, what it is that you're exuding, because whatever frequency that you tune to, whether it's positive or negative, you're going to get more and more of that. And, whether you're someone who believes in your ability to manifest or not, or you think, oh, I don't believe in that stuff, you don't have to at all. Every minute, every second, we are all manifesting, whether you're doing it consciously or you're doing it unconsciously. Whether you're aware or not, you still are at the steering wheel. So I always think it's a good idea to actually be conscious, right? And aware of where you're steering the ship, where you're steering that vehicle, opposed to being unconscious. And it's better to select, and I'm going to put up the little diagram. I always think it's better to be able to select from that 5D, the storyline that you would prefer to play out, opposed to just, unconsciously, selecting one of the books off the shelves, right? And we talk about in quantum manifestation, we've talked about this already in the 5D, you could think of it as like a library with an infinite number of books. And in each one of those books, you are the main character, and every possible storyline is played out in those books, right? So when you are consciously choosing to align and manifest out a certain version timeline, you are consciously selecting one of those books from the shelves, and then you are aligning yourself with that storyline, okay? The storyline that you would prefer. And so that's from the 5D. In the 4D, we're talking about more of that imaginative state, right? You're using your creativity. What would that version be, right? And really getting really clear on the details of that. And it's said, right, that even though we may feel like in the 4D that we are coming up with these very unique, creative ideas. Those are that actually, in actuality, each one of those books are already written from beginning to end, right? And you're just aligning. So even though it may feel like this very creative, unique idea, right, in the 4D of, oh, I would do this, I would do that, it's not really as unique as you think because it's already in the book. That's what they say. But anywho, I think that it's really important that you stop asking the question of, how do I get this dream manifestation, whatever that could be. And as I have mentioned before in other videos, our manifestations are going to look very different across the board. For one person, it could be a dream career, it could be a creative project taking off, it could be a romantic relationship, it could be moving, traveling, it could be a ton of different things. Weight loss, it could be many different things. But instead of asking the question of like, how do I get that? And when the moment you step into the how do I do that, it's more so you trying to build that bridge. Okay, we talked about the bridge. The bridge is the basically bridging you from your current state to that dream fulfilled, that end state, right? And that bridge is not created by you, but that's more the universe's job, right? Your job is just to align with the version of that fulfillment. Okay, and as you do that, the universe creates that bridge, the bridge of incidences that actually get you from your current to that end state. Okay, and that's not your job to do, because as I mentioned before, the universe has an infinite number of ways to make your dreams come true. It has an infinite number of ways to bring things into your reality. Okay, ways beyond that you never would have maybe even thought possible. Okay, but that's not really your job at all to focus on. Instead of asking the question of, you know, how do I make this happen? More of a question of, who would I be if that manifestation were already fulfilled? Okay, and you want to get very, very clear on that. Who would you be? Meaning, how would you think? How would you speak? What decisions would you make? What would you tolerate? What wouldn't you tolerate? You know, would you be more fearless with certain things? Would you be less afraid? How, you know, would you speak openly? Would you censor yourself? What would you do, okay, if you had that dream fulfilled? And how would you carry yourself? You want to get very granular with that, right? Even if you have to actually write out, right? Because you're getting deep on a deeper level. Like I said, we're getting into how you think, how you speak, how you carry yourself. What is your posture? What would you fear? What would you no longer fear? What would you tolerate? What wouldn't you tolerate? You know, would you be more confident to speak or act a certain way? Or would you be, you know, really get into like the granular details on that? And then also in a superficial way as well, right? Would you look the same? Would there be any physical changes? And I always use the example of like someone waiting for a dream job. And they say, well, once I get that job, you know, then I'll start working out. Then I'll get the haircut. Then I'll dress more professionally. Then I'll start hanging out here or stop hanging out there. Something you could start doing right now. Now, maybe some things, maybe you can't, you know, do just yet. But once you get really very detailed with that version of yourself that has it, that does it, what can you start doing right now, today? Now, it might not be everything on the list, but I'm sure there are more things than what you think that you could actually start putting into action. Maybe you can now, you know, start working out. Maybe now you can, you know, maybe you're not buying a full wardrobe, but maybe now you can dress just maybe a little bit more professionally. Maybe you can get the haircut now. Maybe you can start, you know, like what can you put into action now? You're not going to wait until once that happens, then I'll start. What are you doing now? Because basically what you're doing is you are consciously tuning, you're changing the frequency, you're tuning into that version, you're aligning yourself with that version that has it. In the beginning, let me just say as a disclaimer, in the beginning, it might feel very like inauthentic. Maybe you feel like, you know, this is fake, I'm faking it, you know, and it's okay, right? In the beginning, you may actually have to fake it till you make it. And the more you do it, the less fake it will feel, the more real and authentic it will feel to you, which is great because you're literally, you're changing who you are, how you think, how you feel on a subconscious level, because those actions that you take will eventually feel less and less fake, right? Because it's gonna something that you're actually gonna build into your routine, into your actual like being of who you are. That's great because it changes you on a subconscious level. You changing that on a subconscious level is great in that it aligns you with that identity. You are actually identifying with, well, I am the person who is lucky. I am the person who is selected. I am the person who gets the job. I am the person who is chosen. Whatever, you are aligning. I am the successful. I am successful. I do work, but you being able to realign yourself on a subconscious level is great because then it's sewn into your identity. And then, like I say, the very cool part is that then it becomes like this symbiotic relationship with the universe, right? So you've done your part, you're doing your part with just aligning and identifying with. And then the universe is, again, that algorithm that's reacting. It's reacting. It's to things that you give your energy to. Wherever you put your focus is what you're going to get more and more of into your reality. So if you are, focused and you are identifying with that version, you're going to get more of it, more and more of it. One day you look up and you may say like, man, I remember when this was like a dream to me. This was my dream, and now it's real. Like, this is for real. And yeah, that's just one of the really, really cool things. But I wanted to make this video, you guys, because like I say, in manifestation, a lot of times we do, which is very human, it's very normal. We focus in on what it is that we want and we desire, and we put less attention on who are we being right now in our present state. And just to sum it up, think of the world, think of the universe as being that platform, okay, that social media platform. And when you put energy and you put focus on different things, you are bringing certain things into your news feed, into your bubble, and you're going to get more and more of wherever it is that you put your focus, your energy into. So if you want to change certain things, you have to change your focus. You have to identify and align with what it is that you do want to see. Less of what you don't and more of what you do want to see. And in the beginning, it may feel inauthentic, it may feel fake, but that's okay, because the more and more you do it, the less fake it will feel, and the more you will continuously identify with that version that has it, okay? And then the rest, you could call it the secret sauce, the magic, because that's where the universe comes in, and the universe builds that bridge. It continues to push out things, circumstances into your bubble that reinforce your identity. So manifestation is really about your identity, and your one real main job is to, as much as you can, align. And when you find that you're out of alignment, it's okay. Just very gently and lovingly redirect and realign yourself back into it. And yeah, I hope you guys found this video to be helpful, useful. If you did, give it a big old thumbs up. You guys, share this video with anyone who may find it helpful, that maybe needs to hear it. Remember to leave lots of comments down below, you guys. A comment that you leave, as I say, divine timing. Someone else may need to hear it right at the time that you leave it. Perfect, super helpful to them. Leave lots of comments. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.